So I'll just open us with a karakia. I think maybe say seated. No. Okay. Yeah.
Whakateho ki te uru, whakataka te hau ki te tonga, kia mā kina kina ki uta, kia mā taratara ki tai. E hi aki ana te atakura, he teo, he hoka, he hauhu, ti hei mauri ora.
Right. Kia ora. Welcome, everybody. My name is Emily Deans. I'm the Democracy Advisor that will look after this committee from Wellington City Council. So just until we have a chairperson elected, I'll just run us through the opening part of the meeting. Just firstly, let me know if you intend to leave the meeting. My colleague Heidi is also helping me out at the back there, and we'll have some morning tea at 10:30. First of all, do we have any apologies? So I've received the apologies from Councillor Hulina and Councillor Maynard for absence. Do we have any more apologies? No? Great. So do I have someone to move this motion? Great. Councillor Pannett. And a seconder? Councillor, is it Mitchell? Thank you. Awesome. So all of those in favour, please say aye. All of those against, please say no. Great. Declare that carried. Okay, now we'll move on to conflicts of interest declarations. So do we have any conflicts of interest to declare? Great. Keep moving to the confirmation of the minutes. So do we have a councillor to move the motion to accept the minutes from the previous meeting of the 5th of September? Anyone? Is anyone there to move? Yes? Yeah. So what? Swales. Are you a member of the committee now? You're not. An alternate. Okay. And a seconder? Yeah. Yeah. Right. So all those in favour, please say aye. All those against, please say no. Great. That is carried. So now we will move on. So there are no items not on the agenda, and there's no public participation. So I'm just going to reorder the agenda. So we go with the election of the chairperson and deputy chairperson first. So in accordance with Standing Order 3.7.2, I'm according precedence to item 2.2, election of chairperson and deputy chairperson. So the agenda will be considered in the following order. So item 2.2, and then item 2.1, then item 2.3. So we'll move on to the election of chairperson and deputy chairperson. I will just basically take the paper as read, just suggesting that statutory voting system A might be the easier option. But are there any questions about item 2.2 before we move to... Yeah, Councillor Pannett.
I just have one. I'm just wondering if it's possible to change the terms so that we have co-chairs. So I was the chair in the 2016-19 training, and we just sort of ran it like that, even though we had to have a deputy chairperson. Is it possible?
I'm not sure. Maybe Heidi can...
Legislatively, no, you can't have co-chairs for a joint committee. We can, in theory, run it as co-chairs, but one person must be the chair and one person must be the deputy chair.
Thank you, Heidi. You're always a fount of wisdom.
Yes. Are there any further questions? Okay. In that case, I thought we could move through each clause separately. So if we start with clause number 1, do we have a councillor to move this clause? Just receive the information. Yes. So Councillor Swale. I think, Councillor Swale, just to confirm, is the... she is here, so I think only one of you can... yeah, great. And then a seconder? Wonderful. What was your name, sorry? Wonderful. And all those in favour of receive the information, please say aye. All those against say no. Wonderful. I declare the first clause carried. So the next clause here is adopt as described in the report and in the Local Government Act 2002, either statutory voting system A or statutory voting system B. Do we have a councillor to move this motion, either A or B? Yeah. Yeah. Wonderful. Yeah. Great. So now this motion is moved and seconded. I put it to the vote. All those in favour, please say aye. All those against, please say no. Wonderful. I declare that carried. So now we'll move on to the nominations for the position of chair. Just check my notes. So, as per the voting system A, I declare nominations for the position of chairperson. So do we have any nominations? Wonderful. Councillor Holderness?
Yes, I nominate Councillor Andy Mitchell from Hutt City Council.
Wonderful, thank you. And Steve?
I'd like to nominate Councillor Iona Pennant, please.
Wonderful, thank you. Do you have any other nominations? Okay. So I will put the motion to the vote.
Could I just suggest we introduce?
Yes.
We don't know each other.
Yes.
Would that be good?
Yep, that's a good idea.
Yeah, kia ora koutou, ko Andy Mitchell tōku ingoa. I'm a second-term Hutt City Councillor. I wasn't on this committee in the previous triennium, but I was the alternate. However, through the last triennium, I chaired the Wellington Regional Waste Forum. There's a bit of crossover. Yeah, thank you.
Kia ora koutou, ko Iona Pennant, tōku ingoa. I am actually a 6th-term Wellington City Councillor, so I am the longest serving here now. I was the Waste and Three Waters Portfolio Leader from 2013 to 2019, and so I was the chair of this committee in the 2016-2019 triennium where we developed the second regional plan, and have also been the chair of the Environment Committee over 2 triennia as well. So passionate about waste and passionate about just building on the progress that we've already made so that we can do things even better. Kia ora.
Kia ora, thank you for that and good suggestion. So just to be clear how we'll run this is everyone, all of the members can vote for one candidate, and we'll do this by show of hands just to make sure that it's clear. So firstly, please, we'll need a, sorry. We've got move the motion from here, Councillor Holderness. Okay, apologies. So, and this, please raise your hands if you would like to nominate Councillor Mitchell as chairperson. You mean vote for? Yes, vote for. Cool, so we have 2. And please raise your hands if you would like to vote for Councillor Pennant as chairperson. Yes. So Sorry, what was that question?
Sorry, just you can vote for yourselves.
Yeah. So 3 here for Councillor Pennant. Did you wish to vote for yourself? No? Okay, in that case, I declare the chairperson of the Wellington Region Waste Management and Minimisation Plan Joint Committee for the 2022-2025 triennium, Councillor Pennant. Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, so now call for nominations of the Deputy Chairperson. Could you use the microphone? Sorry.
So everyone here. Councillor Mitchell.
Wonderful. Do we have any other nominations for Deputy Chairperson? Wonderful. In that case, I declare Councillor Mitchell the Deputy Chair of the Wellington Regional Waste Management and Minimisation Plan Joint Committee. Wonderful. Thank you. So, Councillor Pennant, would you like to assume the chair?
Thank you, everyone, for that. I'm just wondering if the first thing we can do is actually introduce ourselves, because I don't know most of you, and also the officers as well. So you've heard from me. That's enough. So, Andy, do you want to go next?
I think they've heard from me.
Oh,
too.
no, yeah, enough. Okay, Marama.
If you could just turn the microphone on so that the light is green.
Here we go.
Kia ora, thank you. Councillor Tuta from Masterton District Council. I'm first term, and I'm the alternate because Councillor Helena is suffering from COVID. Thank you.
O tēnā koutou katoa, ko Quentin Duffy tōkuinga, Greater Wellington Regional Councillor. My first question is, according to the agenda, I'm a member of this committee. However, regional councils don't technically have statutory responsibility here. So I just wanted to clarify that in terms of my role. Happy to leave, but I'm sure you'd rather I stay. No,
Certainly not. So
my broader question will be what support and role can Greater Wellington best play in this forum, given it's not core business, but that's for down the track, so thank you.
just briefly, it has been a matter of protocol that we include Greater Wellington because we like to work collegially as a region, and obviously you're an environmental regulator and can say no to our landfill extension. But there'll be positive things to do too.
G'day everybody, I'm Mike Duncan, Porirua City Councillor, third term. I'm the alternate to Jeff Hayward, who's online there.
Kia ora koutou, my name is Andrew Tsaka. I'm the Senior Waste Minimisation Advisor here at Hutt Valley. I'm filling in for Ewan today. Ewan is head of our climate and waste team, but he's at a decarbonisation conference.
Good morning everyone. My name is Robbie Stillwell. I'm the Waste Projects Manager for Kapiti Council.
Kia ora everyone, I'm Jocelyn Pravanoff. I'm a councillor at Kapiti Coast District Council. This is my second term. In the previous term I was the portfolio holder for environmental wellbeing. This time I'm actually the chair of the Climate and Environment Subcommittee. Thank you.
Kia ora everyone, my name's James O'Connor. I'm the Manager of Partnerships and Operations at the South Wairarapa District Council.
Kia ora, I'm Mandy Dritta. I'm the Environmental Sustainability Advisor for South Wairarapa Council.
Kia ora koutou, ko Matt Carey tōku ingoa. I'm first term councillor at Upper Hutt City and here non-voting alternate today.
Kia ora koutou, I'm Emma Holderness, first term City Councillor with Upper Hutt City Council.
Kia ora koutou, I'm Helen Swales, I'm the Deputy Mayor of Upper Hutt City Council and I'm here as an alternate.
Kia ora koutou, I'm Richard Scouten. I'm the Senior Waste Minimisation Officer at the Upper Hutt City Council. Pleasure to be here.
Good morning, my name is Mike Berger. I'm the Manager Assets and Operations from Austin District Council.
Good morning, I'm Nigel Clark, Manager Resource Recovery at Pororo City Council.
Kia ora, I'm Yvette Falloon and I'm the Regional Advisor for the WMMP.
Kia ora koutou, ko Stefan Borovi toku ingoa. I'm the Waste Operations Manager at Wellington City Council. Looking forward to working with you all on this great initiative to minimise waste.
Thank you. And online?
Nā mihi nui kia koutou katoa. Ko Holsworth Te Mona, ko Waihine Te Awa, no Taratahi Ahau, ko Steve Cretney Oku Ingoa. I'm a second term councillor with Carden District Council and looking forward to working with you all over the next triennium. Thank you.
Ata Māori e koutou, hope you can hear me all. Ngā mihi nui kia koutou katoa kai kora ko Jeff Hayward aho, he kai kona hira au o te taone nui o Purirua. My name is Jeff Hayward. I'm a second term councillor returning to this committee again, serving as the representative for Purirua City Council. Big wishes to you all, even if I can't see you, ka nohi ki te. Kia ora.
Kia ora.
Kia ora koutou. Good morning, everybody. We'll go next here at Pororo City Council. I'm David Down, Manager of Water and Waste here at Pororo.
Kia ora koutou, ko Emily Tokuingoa. I am the Senior Advisor, Waste Management and Minimisation at Pororo City Council.
Thank you so much, everyone. Great team of people. I'm looking forward to working with you for the next 3 years. Right, so we'll go to the 2.1 now. So the governance arrangements. Emily, do you want to speak to is there anything you want to add or just take it as read?
Thank you. I'll just mention that this is the setting the dates for the triennium, and that we're also suggesting that we adopt the Wellington City Council standing orders rather than the model standing orders. So that's the only the real change from the previous triennium. Any questions?
So those times suit people? Monday morning? Yep. And Steve and I were just talking over the weekend too, like I think if people do want to appear by Zoom, I think for me it's completely fine. I think it's a long way to travel for some people and we're thinking about
we will just need 4 people in person to meet quorum.
Okay, we still need 4.
So we still need 4 people in person, but we can...
But we could all do it on Zoom though, presumably, if we did decide
No.
to. Oh, okay.
No, it's
okay.
the emergency.
Those were the emergency.
order
Okay.
Is
all right.
closed.
Okay.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Okay. But those of us who are closest hopefully can just make that a bit easier on everyone else. Okay. Great. So no questions? Okay. Would anyone like to move the recommendations? Sorry, you've introduced it. Yep. And does anyone want to move? Okay, I will. Would you like to second, Councillor Matthews? Any debate? Right, if we can vote, those in favour say aye. Aye. Any against? Right, those are all passed. Thank you very much. Right, and now to the very interesting part of the meeting, the waste assessment. So that is a very big bit of work. A big thanks to all the officers who have done that. It's an incredibly useful summary of where we're at. So that's for you to introduce. Yeah, thanks, Stefan.
Thank you. So this paper has a number of recommendations. We'd like you to receive the information. We'd like you to note the Wellington Region draft waste assessment. And we would like you to recommend to your councils through whatever committee or full council to agree to formally proceed with the development of a new Wellington Region Waste Management and Minimisation Plan for the 2023-2029 period. We'd also like you to note the update on the development of the Wellington Region Waste Management and Minimisation Plan and associated timeline, and also to note the update on the key regional and local level work completed to implement the current Wellington Region Waste Management and Minimisation Plan. I'd take the report as read and happy to take any questions. Just bearing in mind that this was a joint effort, and I'd like to thank officers from the other councils for their input into this report, and also the work that Yvette has done. Yvette has just recently joined us in the capacity of advisor, regional advisor for the WMMP, and she'll be working with us on the development of the new WMMP in the future. She's only recently joined us. I think it's your 4th week, is it, or something? Yeah, so fresh and a real baptism of fire to get this report done. So happy to take any questions from you.
Right, councillors, any questions? Feel free to ask lots. There's quite a few. Yes, sorry, I'm just reading names. Do you want to go first? Yes, sorry. No. Any? Well, should I start off then? And then I'll just ask 3 because I've got quite a few. So the first thing is around elevating tikanga Māori and, that te ao Māori perspective. So just as we go forward, look, obviously we're going to be working with iwi, but I'm just wondering if there's any thinking about how that's going to be done so that we do it better than we've done it in the past.
I can answer that question. As part of the WMP review process, we've drafted a project plan, and a key part of that is having iwi partner with us on that process. What we have done to date is we've been starting to work with all our iwi liaison officers and managers in each territorial authority, and we've certainly let iwi know that we're going down the track of preparing a new WMP, and we're welcoming their involvement in that. Our next step is to, during the next couple of weeks where we are doing a stakeholder engagement, prior to that we will be trying to involve each local iwi at each council, because that's what we've been asked to do by iwi. But again, there'll be ongoing stakeholder work with them, well, not partnership work with them, to ensure that we get all of their views on board. I think probably a key part of well, certainly in Porua, our Ngāti Toa certainly wish to have more of an input into things like the local action plans, which is where their interests are. So there's huge opportunity in there, and I guess it is a little bit harder for us. There's some iwi are not as well resourced as others, and we are trying to address that. Our consultancy firm that's assisting us with this process has a specific staff member working on this full time.
That's a great answer, and I guess it's for me not just about input, but actually seeing it through the lens. So, and that resourcing issue is an important one too. So, Stefan, are we able to assist too with that?
Yes, and in terms of the Wellington City Council action plan, we've already started that process to engage local iwi and to co-design the actions within the WCC action plan. So that work is definitely underway.
Good.
And we can assist if other councils need any assistance from us, please sing out and we'll do whatever we can.
Yes, sure.
Just as a follow-up to that, Stefan, do you get the feeling yet that things might be quite different from what the iwi want than what was in the previous plan?
I think the thing to mention in the work that we've done over the past sort of 9 months is that there's a recognition from iwi that this is our mahi and they have their own mahi. So as long as there is crossover between the two and it's linked to whatever strategies our local iwi have, then we feel that there will be more engagement in our process.
The next question I had was around, there's two different kinds of waste hierarchies used in this document, and the most important one is that the MFE one talks about redesign, but the other one talks about reducing and refusing. So this is an absolutely critical point. It's, it sort of hits at the heart of all of this issue. So which hierarchy will we use?
My recommendation is to use the MFE hierarchy. And just to, I suppose, answer the question about refuse, this was brought up at a recent briefing amongst council officers and councillors at WCC. I suppose the word refuse and refuse are quite synonymous, and you don't really want refuse at the top of your waste hierarchy, which is the reason that MFE haven't included it in there. And I suppose the other school of thought, in terms of redesigning and rethinking your products and services that you provide, there's an element of refusal in that. So as a consumer, you can refuse to purchase a product in your rethinking of purchasing or consumerism. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, I guess just as long as we really do have at the heart, that we are reducing our resource use. Otherwise, And for me, this isn't so much about climate. This is about a proper stewardship of resources, yeah.
I can follow on a little bit. When councillors will be invited to a broader strategic outcomes workshop shortly, and in that we certainly have engaged Becca with a view to completely changing the approach from the old solid waste plans and going more towards the solid waste, more towards the circular economy. And if you remember the transforming recycling work that Ministry for the Environment did, certainly very much along those lines. So we're looking for actually transformational change here, and what we've been doing to date certainly hasn't worked, so we want quite a different approach, and hopefully we can find a way to get that.
That leads me on to my final question for now, which is, I guess we did anticipate transformational change, and we tried to put some thinking in there for this one, but the resources weren't there and the political will wasn't always. So I was just wondering if staff have any reflection on how to get more success. So the next council in 6 years' time will look back and go, goodness me, we did a lot.
I think a lot of that work is underway under the current plan, and we should acknowledge the fact that we've actually delivered quite a lot, but still fallen short in terms of our overarching goals. The key thing that we need to focus on is ensuring that the new plan is transformational, that it moves towards a circular economy, and I think we're at a stage where a lot of the ducks are in the right row. So central government is doing a lot of work into redesigning services and rethinking collections, taking organics out of the system. They've got the container return scheme, which will be implemented in the next few years. So all of those things, together with the work that we do, should go some way to ensuring that actually there's going to be a big change in the next WMMP.
Okay, thank you. Councillors, any questions?
Yeah, I just had a question about the assessment document and who holds that and is kind of moving it forward until it's finally published. Just kind of noticed as I went through a few kind of inconsistencies in there that hopefully someone's looking at. So yeah, who's in charge of kind of seeing that document through to its final publication?
Yeah, that sits with Wellington City Council. So we've been doing a lot of work into the development of the waste assessment. It's still in draft form. We're still waiting for some data from some of the councils to ensure that it's as accurate as possible. It's within it's within our realm. In terms of it needing to be published, I don't think we need to publish it, or it doesn't need to be approved. It's just presented as a final assessment.
Yeah, I think there was a date in there of March or something like that when it's finalised is probably the right word for it. So we can send some thoughts through to you. Is it, Stefan?
Excellent.
Yeah.
Yes, we'd love to get your feedback. Actually.
Thank you.
I think the waste assessment does actually reflect how hard it's been the last few years, and for me, it's certainly been the lack of direction from central government on waste data. Trying to get data from the private sector is next to impossible, and without that clear direction, it's reflected back into what we have, which is basically material going to landfill and recycling collections. We don't actually address the elephant in the room, which is all the waste from the private sector, and some of the good stuff that they are actually doing in there. So that is certainly very hard for us as officers to drive through. Hopefully, the next one we can get a bit more data for ourselves. But in terms of the other one, I think in where we're going with the WMP, I think it's beholden on each of us as managers in each council to certainly make sure that our individual councils are more aware of the issues around waste minimisation, and where we need resources, actually to request them. That's been largely absent for quite some time. And the other one is that I'm really delighted that the waste levy is going up. It means, for me, I've been able to get another 4 staff. You know, that's unheard of. We had a quarter FTE for 17 years. This is going to make things very much easier for councils to actually start to deliver.
And the data, you will be able to get that from the councils. I appreciate that some of them won't be as well resourced as Wellington City.
I think we will, but bear in mind that we've got totally different operating models all around the region. Some councils obviously don't offer services and don't have a landfill and don't offer recycling. So all of those things come into play, and I think we'll go with the best we can. And I think what we are doing with the WMP is looking to the future rather than worrying about where we've got to, thinking about how we're going to move to the next steps.
And this document's quite heavily reliant on the current government continuing, or the policy direction continuing. If there is a change in government next year, or even in 2026, and there is a philosophical change, are you confident that even with that still some things can be done by the TAs if we decide to continue down this path?
Yep, absolutely. There's some core principles and projects that we can actually get underway. What will be difficult is things like product stewardship. Potentially we won't have, if we do get a change in government, we may not get a container deposit system. We might not get more regulation in terms of licensing in the national licensing framework. However, we have been told that most of that is supposed to be ready by the middle of this year, and if not, then early next year. That's put into regulation, so let's wait and see. But there's lots we can do, and we can do better.
Okay. I'd like to have a discussion about this too hear from councillors, the licensing issue, and whether we continue with that, or are you confident that MFE will do that work so we can redirect resources? So I think it would be useful to hear from. So do people understand what the issue is here, just obviously for new councillors? So we've done an enormous amount of work on licensing waste operators, and now unfortunately the government is coming a bit late maybe, right, to do some of that work for us and for the whole country, which will be good obviously to have it consistent. But I guess just my concern was if we stop, does that mean if government then changes its priorities, it doesn't get done when it's really important? And also, have we lost a lot of resource by going down this track and then stopping?
I'll start answering. So we did have a project to implement a waste operator licensing system, and this is within each of our council's bylaws. It allows us to license collectors and operators, any organisation that collects or accepts over 20 tonnes of waste per annum. So virtually all of the customers of our landfills, all collectors within the region. That work was initially started as a region, and then we heard through a consultant that was helping us that the councils within the Bay of Plenty were doing the same work. So we latched onto that work, and we've actually come to a stage where that work that the Bay of Plenty councils have been doing has been extremely slow for whatever reason. So we've, as officers, made a decision to put that work on hold, and each individual council to make a decision as to whether to implement the waste operator licensing system within their councils. So from a Wellington City perspective, we are going to license our waste collectors and waste facility operators as of January, I think it's January the 25th next year. And then over the next 12 months, we will engage with them to see what data and how that licensing system might look. We have heard from the Bay of Plenty and also from central government in their work to implement the waste data framework that some waste operators, particularly the larger ones, have been resisting providing data. So that could be something that we come across as well in our future work. But yeah, from a Wellington City perspective, we are going to implement a waste operator licensing system in January, and we're happy to share that work so that we're not, having to duplicate it amongst the other councils.
I know it's our first meeting, we don't even know each other yet, but do councillors have some views on this? Or do you need some more information, or?
Could you put in the contract that it could be part of the contract or agreements that they have to provide the data?
Yeah, that would go some way. So we could, if we have a contract with a local contractor, but within Wellington City, you're looking at over 80 customers who use the southern landfill. So not all of those customers are contractors to council. So you're not going to get the full picture. So that's where waste operator and collector licensing should enable us to get a full picture of the data that's required so that we can then implement services that minimise waste.
Thanks. Councillor Hayward.
Thank you. My question is actually about the central government's timeframe for their licensing scheme and being implemented. Do we have clarity on what MFE's position is on when this is going to be implemented? Because I don't want to be standing at the altar for too bloody long.
Thank you, Councillor Hayward, Chair. Yep, Ministry for Environment have suggested that they are going to have some sort of framework in place by middle of 2023. I guess they did intend to have it in place quite some time ago, but they've suddenly realised just how hard this is. And I think when we go around the country and just see how other councils are dealing with this, whilst we have contracts, as Stefan's pointing out, that's only for a small part of what we collect, and councils are actually seen as competitors, not regulators in this space. That makes it inordinately difficult for us to actually enforce a licensing regime. Hence our reluctance to move too fast until we've got a better steer from central government, and hopefully the regulations and the regulatory teeth to actually be able to do that. But having said that, I think Stefan's right. We can probably move to a very light-handed licensing regime, so we know where operators are. But we've just got to put in the back of our mind that we are seen as competitors. And in court, they probably have a case. So that's where we're up to.
More of a question and a view at this stage, because we've heard from Stefan where Wellington City Council's at, but I was just wondering where the other councils are at, if they're ready to at least do a light touch of licensing, or if some of them feel that's further away.
Where we've got to is Yvette is doing a piece of work for us right now, and that's going to be presented to the regional managers shortly. And when we've had time to digest that, we'll bring that back to you.
Does Upper Hutt have a view, or?
Our officers, our officers are working on it with the officers around the region, and when they land on something, that's when we'll look at implementing it. Yep.
So it's that kind of model. We've done this where we did a voluntary warrant of fitness for rental housing before central government started regulating, and so it's a little bit like that. Sometimes we just start the process and then hopefully they'll catch up. Yeah. Any other views?
Just the only other view I had to share, and I certainly have no issue with Wellington City Council leading the way, but the fact that many of us are talking about the same operators, it kind of feels like we should be moving ahead together. And if the government's coming through with a framework, hopefully in the middle of next year, that's not too far away by the time we get a report back on how we could roll it out. So, yeah.
It would be, just given waste doesn't respect boundaries, it would be good if we can have a joined up approach, I think. Yeah. Okay, but I'm hearing that people do want some more information. Okay, and that will come to councils. So you'd provide a briefing to each council, would you?
I imagine once Yvette's done the piece of work for us, we'll certainly be bringing it back to this committee and then to each council, definitely.
Okay. Okay. Councillor's got some other questions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The waste assessment is a amazingly rich and detailed document, which makes it difficult for the public to find nuggets of information that have the most pertinence. Now, while the waste assessment itself is not a public document in the sense of a consultation process, it does become released along with the proposed waste management and minimisation plan. So I wonder if there's a room for some sort of, not an executive summary as such, but some sort of way of encapsulating the core themes or states and trends or something like that, drivers' pressures perhaps, from the assessment in some sort of infographic or 1 or 2 page or something that accompanies it or sits at the head of it. So if you're a community group or a member of the public who wants to get a handle on the assessment, you don't have to wade through 120 pages. You can do a simpler take on it. Thank you.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent idea. I concur with having to wade through 120 pages of information. The way that the waste assessment is presented is as set out in legislation. However, I think we can stay slightly away from that in that we can put an executive summary up front. So for the next draft, we'll work on that basis.
And that's a good suggestion, and it could be done as a media release actually, because it's also a form of public accountability, you know, and also maybe make the public think, gosh, maybe we could do some things differently. But in a sense, I wouldn't expect radical change, because unless the infrastructure and the policies in place, well, we're not going to reduce our waste unless people just simultaneously just start to live a less or more sustainable life. And we know that from our Miramar trial, as you will have seen, that people prefer to put their compost out rather than dealing with it at home. So that was an interesting one, wasn't it? Okay, no more questions? Because people are most welcome. Now, I know this is a little bit unconventional, tell me if I'm not allowed to, but I'm just wondering, it would be useful, I think, to go around the table and see if people have hopes and expectations for the next plan, just because we don't meet together that often, and this would be a chance to give officers feedback. Do people feel that they know enough to start giving that feedback, even if it's just really high level and it's not required to be expert, it's just to reflect the views of your community? Is that something people would find useful? Or would you like to start? There you go. Because you've actually done something significant last 6 years, yeah.
Yeah. Our council changed our curbside collection system, which was significant a couple of years ago, and it's bedded in quite well. It was quite controversial at the time. But fortunately, come election time, it was hard to find anyone who didn't like our new system. So that's been quite successful initial rollout. It certainly came with teething problems that kept us busy for the first year or so. So we're just getting now on top of public education around contamination and things like that. And for me, and I guess for our community, it's a question of what next. And we introduced a green waste component to our curbside collection, but it's for garden waste, not for food waste. So that's probably the next big one for us, is what to do with our food waste, and we're working with Porirua and Wellington to find the best solution for that. And then C&D waste is probably another really big one for us. We're in the middle of a building boom, or have been, and we again had a fairly contentious clean fill down in Wainuiamata, which is now closed. And our council has decided, for the foreseeable future at least, that we won't be operating the next clean fill ourselves. There's a couple of private ones on the horizon. So I think that's where we're at in Lower Hutt. But yeah, really looking at those, what are the next things to tackle and how we can do that. And maybe Andrew can provide a little bit of information about our landfill that's been out to contract too when it gets down to him. Thank you.
Councillor Hayward.
Kia ora no. Thank you for the opportunity to relay the feedback from our communities. Having been on this committee in the previous triennium, I would reiterate what was said by a previous speaker about the amount of work that has been done during this time period is significant, and some of it is setting the foundation for subsequent actions as well. In terms of the feeding back from the community, Nigel and the team at Porirua City Council will be well aware of my views on the subject. However, I'll reiterate them. The first is that we should continue to maintain our alignment with the central government and its proactive policy approach, and with some confidence that the direction of policy will continue. However, elections always have consequences, I suppose. However, I would also point out that central government agencies, particularly MFE, should have fair expectations on how and when we should participate in these processes, and meeting timeframes which are reasonable for individual councils across the entire region. Secondly, one of the factors that doesn't always get mentioned in these corridor is around the individual costs to households. The specific example I'd use is just around our rubbish bags and so forth. When times are tough, the challenge, so the temptation to use recycling bins, for instance, to dump household waste because they cannot afford bags, or resort to fly tipping or incineration, does not actually help our local environment or our obligations under the law. So the reflection I would like to pass back is that be mindful of that moving forward. That said, I am somewhat of a booster for the work that has been done by councils, including Porirua, and a diversion for construction and demolition waste, a major source of waste heading to Spicer landfill, for instance, as well as the organic waste collection. I was impressed with the draft waste assessment form, talking about the examples that Councillor Bennett has already alluded to around preferences for individual households. This is not going to be a one fix for all, but the more that we can make it easier for people to get to that space, that mindset, and not punish people, the better that we are going to improve participation overall. So that's my reflections. Kia ora koutou.
Thank you, and again, very helpful. Anyone else like to?
I'll speak as our members here are new and unfamiliar with some of the strategies that we've got. So we've focused on a lot of education. So we have Park Street, and before we go into curbside recycling, we deferred that because we knew that there were lots of changes that were coming down through the pipeline, through central government. We're looking at a project which is looking at food, the recycling of food. But like I said, the focus for us is around the circular economy and diverting or repurposing or reusing a lot of the stuff. So I'd like to see in the plan that comes, which has already been mentioned, is that circular economy, and actually making sure that we reuse more than we repurpose is really, really good. So we're looking at some interesting pilots that are happening around, and in particular those that have been mentioned, which is Tauranga. There's also a really good project down in Timaru we've been looking at, and even having some insights of offshore what's happening in Brisbane with regard to their bottle returns. So yeah, that's where we are.
Again, really helpful. Maybe you can skip some of the recycling. Just go straight to repurposing. There you go.
Thank you. So I suppose coming along here for the first time, it's about upskilling myself and learning. But I suppose given this opportunity, I just wanted to make a few observations. So in Kapiti, I think we do a good job there. There's always things that you can improve on, but I suppose one of the things that is slightly different there is we have now outsourced our curbside recycling, and so it's a user pay system. It's outside the council realm, which in some respects I suppose has helped people realise that if they don't reduce their waste, they're going to have to pay for it. Saying that, on the other side of that too, the Waikanai Green Waste and Recycling Centre has closed, which makes it more difficult for particularly an older population to travel further when you're trying to encourage people to recycle. I suppose the other thing too, I noticed here on page 87, there's a really nice diagram there which talks about avoiding, and I suppose there's been lots of conversations today about levies and charges and using waste facilities, but I think it's also really important to actually look at how we can avoid using these facilities as well. And I think there's another table in the document, a great document, that actually says that a lot of the waste is organic, and it's about trying to look at some of those, maybe some of those things aren't so easy for some people, but for others, about, changing the mindset in some of those areas. Those are just my comments in the meantime. Thank you.
Again, that's really helpful. Councillor Duthie, do you have anything that you want to?
Thank you. Yeah, I guess trying to think waste with a regional council hat on is slightly difficult, but has opportunity because it's a different perspective. I think a key thing for me, if I think from the regional council perspective, is thinking about the environmental impact of waste. So not the process of generation and diversion or disposal per se, but what the flow-on impacts of that are. So I wonder if there might be, I'm not going to volunteer Greater Wellington for anything because I don't have the mandate to do that, but There could be something useful to add here in terms of public consciousness of why waste management and minimisation is important, putting aside wise resource use for now, but the impact of waste and litter in waterways. We see it in the Te Awa Kairangi, the Hutt River. Whenever there's a bit of a build-up somewhere, there's debris from forest as well as all the litter ends up collecting in a big bundle. We see it in old landfill in Petone eroding away in a stream, and therefore 1970s bottles ending up washing up on Petone Beach. So that's the environmental impact. I'm not sure how. It's not technically part of this assessment and plan, but it is one of the reasons that we try and do better with waste minimisation and management. So that was one thought that I'll keep thinking about. And just an example there, I was on the Whaitua Te Whanganui Tara Committee, which is the freshwater management planning group for the Wellington City and Hutt catchments. And we had brief conversations about the impact of waste as a pollutant. Most of the effort, though, goes into chemical inputs, nitrogen, phosphorus, sediment, things like that. But actually to the public and to some of the impact on the marine environment particularly, it is the solid waste that is one of the impactful pollutants in the water. The other aspect of Greater Wellington's work is being on the receiving end of a lot of fly tipping, especially in riverways. So it could just be useful to have a case study or some sort of photos and story about that in the assessment, as to illustrate to people some of the impacts of waste management and minimisation downstream when it doesn't get captured. Just some off the top of the head, so I'm new to this committee, and it's been about 10 years since I had my head in waste. Iona will remember I was the advisor for the Green Party when the Waste Minimisation and Management Act went through Parliament. So I had my head firmly buried in it then, and then not since. So I've got a bit of catching up to do. But it's fascinating to be back in a space that one once worked in. So nice to meet you all.
Thank you, and that's great background. Councillor Chetney, do you have anything you'd like to say? Not compulsory.
Was that me, Iona?
Yeah.
Look, I just really just want to say our council is and probably South Wairarapa as well, we're very under-resourced in this space, and I know that the new levy, the increase in levies will hopefully help us gain a new FTE. We are still trying to progress things with how we manage our waste, and we just recently, a couple of weeks ago, had a very good session, a combined council meeting where waste opportunities were presented to us. And our council, we're looking at rolling out event waste management. So that there's quite a number of small things where we're actually working on. We're negotiating a contract to deliver zero waste in the schools program. I'm just trying to pick things out. We're working with Y Waste and exploring whether they can increase what they're doing in the Wairarapa with potentially looking at composting, collection, and construction and demolition waste, so that we're possibly increasing income and less reliance on funding as such. So we are looking at trying to do some of them just small things, even small battery recycling collection at our transfer stations, just the small things, but we're definitely under-resourced in this space, and it's something that our officers are going to be pressing our council with in the new year, just with having to develop our own minimisation plan as such. So yeah, looking forward to seeing how our council can help all of us move forward. So thank you.
Great stuff. Thank you.
Just being new to the committee and also being an alternate, and not knowing the rules of the game, I'd like to ask, without throwing them under the bus, if our officer could maybe respond about some of the things that we're doing in Masterton. Is that okay?
Yeah. No problem with that. We've commenced with our Tier 1 contractor. We're looking at transforming curbside recycling and transformation. We're looking at introducing through the Wairarapa group food organics and garden organics. Our Tier 1 contractor is already successful with that up in Auckland and down in Christchurch. We're also we've introduced through South Wairarapa Council, we've introduced battery collection with a third-party contractor that will collect the batteries at our landfills and transfer stations from our Tier 1 contractor. That's already in place, and the educational program through South Wairarapa Council is a closed circular education that's going around to the 3 councils, being South Wairarapa Council, Carterton District Council, and Masterton District Council. We've got an educational program going to all the organisations within the Wairarapa. We're also looking at what we can do in recycling, transforming the curbside collection, improving what we've got. We got Southwire, also collecting wheelie bins, but we're looking at improving in our town organisations back to our transfer stations.
Thank you.
Good. Any other last comments?
Just from a Wellington City Council perspective, just want to ask you to, if you've got time, to have a look at the agenda item that's going to be presented to the Environment Infrastructure Committee this Thursday, which is the Wellington City Council Zero Waste Strategy, which has been developed working on a strategic waste review that was carried out within the city in October last year. And this, I suppose, this shows the direction in which we see us going. So moving towards a circular economy where products and services are within Wellington are waste-free. So looking at that top level of the waste hierarchy, there's a lot of work going to be required in terms of behaviour change. What are the motivations for the current things that people purchase, and how do we change that? So there's a lot of work. So if you've got time, please have a look at that agenda item that's going to be presented to the Environment Infrastructure Committee this Thursday.
Cut and paste. So just at a political level for Wellington, I just want to acknowledge the work that was done last triennium. Thank you, because you're right, you do have to lay the foundations really solidly, and there's obviously some great things coming through the pipeline. For me, it really is about implementation that we need and delivery of good things that we have been talking about. I'm just obviously aware that 2030 is racing towards us when we have, for a number of councils, set some quite ambitious carbon targets and sustainability ones as well. And I want to acknowledge too, for low-income families, this is a difficult area. So what I'm most interested in is looking at how we support families, not with cheaper rubbish bags, but other ways to deal with those costs. Costs, is it $17 now to buy 5 rubbish bags for Wellington City Council? It's quite expensive. So the equity aspect, I think, is really important to deal with. But we haven't had our strategy session yet, so I definitely want to be checking in with colleagues and bringing that back. Laurie Foon and I have now for some years said, look, we need to move towards a circular economy. We've got there, so now it's just about how that's going to happen and what priority. because obviously it is going to cost money. But now there's more money floating around from government, there'll be some opportunities. So very exciting stuff. Right, okay. Is there, I will move the recommendations. I know it's nearly morning tea time, but we could probably wrap the meeting up. There is actually just one question I was going to ask staff too, sorry, before, and councillors, whether it would be useful to actually have a workshop, something just where we can actually go, okay, this is really what we want to achieve through this regional waste plan, so we can give some good direction to officers, just in a more informal. It does feel a little bit formal today, and it will give people a chance, just who might be this is their first time, just to, and I've still got some revision to do to, and so we can just really, here's the direction. That be possible? Yeah.
Yep. We're certainly envisaging having a workshop with you all, and that'll be in the next few weeks. And I suppose the question is do you want to extend it to councillors outside the WMP and have a broader representation, or would you prefer just a WMP discussion first with the joint committee?
Can I jump in here through, Chair? I think it's really important. Iona has already stipulated that the implementation and the delivery is really, really important. So only having one advocate around the table when we go back to our councils is not always easy to do that. We know that you need two to move in second. So I think if the opportunity was to be given to a larger audience of our councils, I think it would be far more advantageous to get things over the line.
I think that's a great point, because that's right, we had all sorts of ambitions, but until the rest of your colleagues don't agree with you. So yeah, we could do that. Is before Christmas realistic, or is that just a bit tricky for everyone? Everyone's just like, no, I need to go. It's been a hard camp. Okay, no. I know, I'm still recovering from the campaign. Okay, so late January, would that work for people? Yep. Okay, and it doesn't have to be here. If, we could do it at the hut, we could move around a little bit if that worked for people. Could go to the Wairarapa at least once, Steve.
And I think, Iona, if you give people the opportunity to Zoom in as well, that would be really, really great.
Yeah. We try and make it quite interactive, right? So that, there's lots of chance for people to...
Yeah, I think we'll probably be doing the invitation through the Democratic Services teams.
Yeah.
So just make sure everyone has equal opportunity to do so.
Yeah,
and it might be before Christmas, so I think... is Emily still online? She's got the dates. No, she's not.
Yeah. Okay.
Sorry, Martin, Emily's just speak out for a minute.
Sorry, I didn't hear that. Oh, okay, great. All right, good. Yes, Marama.
I was wondering if it would be possible for us to have plaques, even if it just to say which council you're from. Because, when people are talking, it's nice to know where they're from, and it would be even nicer if you could put their name on.
That's right. We could just get a piece of paper and everyone could just put their Sharpie on it or something like that. But even for these meetings, it would be helpful. That's a great idea. Yeah. All right. Well, I'll move the recommendations. Would you like to second, Councillor? I don't feel a need to, except to say, I hope that we will all be accountable for delivering, so that at the end of 3 years, we can feel really proud of the time that we've spent and the resources used to deliver a great plan. Any debate? Discussion? All right, put the recommendations. All those in favour, say aye. Aye. Any against? Right, well, that is carried. Thank you very much. And we will conclude with our karakia. So if people could stand, that would be great. Unahia, unahia, unahia ki tu uru tapanui. Kia wātia, kia mama, te nākau, te tinana, te wairua. E te ara tukatu. Koe rā e rongo, whakaerea ka ki ke runga. Kia wātia, aero. Thank you so much, everyone. That is absolutely fantastic. And now we have a hopefully waste-free morning tea.